There's a moment that happens quietly, but it lingers longer than it should. You open your banking app just to check, not because anything urgent happened, but because there's this background feeling that you should be more aware. The numbers aren't shocking. Nothing is falling apart. But nothing feels right either. It's that strange middle space where you're not struggling enough to panic, but not progressing enough to feel secure. And when you close the app, there's this subtle tension that follows you. Like something isn't working, even though you've been trying to be more careful, more responsible, more aware than you used to be. And that's the part that confuses people the most. You're trying harder than before, thinking more about money than before, making fewer obvious mistakes than before. And yet it feels heavier, slower, harder to fix. So naturally, the first place your mind goes is inward. Maybe I'm the problem. Maybe I lack discipline. Maybe I keep messing up in ways I don't even notice. That assumption feels logical, but it's incomplete. Because what's changed isn't just your behavior. What's changed is the environment around your behavior. Managing money in 2026 isn't just about income and expenses anymore. It's about attention, energy, and constant decision-making. The number of financial decisions you make in a single day has quietly multiplied. Not big, life-altering decisions, but small ones that barely register. A subscription renews automatically. You order food because you're too mentally drained to cook. You upgrade something because it feels reasonable in the moment. You say yes to something small because it doesn't feel worth overthinking. None of these decisions feel important on their own, which is exactly why they're dangerous. They slip through unnoticed, not just affecting your money, but draining your mental clarity. Every small decision takes a bit of energy, and when those decisions become constant, your brain doesn't become better at handling them. It becomes tired. This is where decision fatigue quietly takes over. When your mind is tired, it stops thinking long-term. It stops evaluating consequences. It starts looking for relief. What feels easy right now? What removes friction in this moment? What lets me move on without thinking too much? And those decisions, while completely understandable, slowly move you away from what actually improves your situation. At the same time, there's a different kind of pressure running in the background. You're not just managing your finances anymore, you're managing how your life feels compared to everyone else's. You don't actively choose to compare, it just happens. You see people upgrading their spaces, traveling more, living what looks like a smoother version of life. Even if you know it's curated, even if you remind yourself that it's not the full picture, something still shifts inside you. Your standards adjust slightly. What used to feel like enough starts to feel like you're falling behind. And now your financial decisions aren't just logical, they're emotional. They're influenced by what you think your life should look like by now. This is where things become heavier than they appear. Because now, money isn't just about numbers, it's about identity, expectations, and subtle pressure. It follows you throughout the day, sitting quietly in the background of your thoughts. When you're working, there's a part of your mind thinking about whether you're earning enough. When you're resting, there's a quiet voice reminding you that you should probably be more productive. Even when nothing is wrong, it still feels like something needs attention. That constant awareness creates tension, and decisions made under tension are rarely calm or intentional. Instead of thinking in years, you start thinking in moments. What makes today easier? What reduces stress right now? What helps me feel a little more in control, even temporarily? And slowly, without realizing it, your decisions start drifting away from long-term stability. Not because you don't care, but because your mind is trying to protect you from constant pressure. This is where many people get stuck, and they don't even realize why. They assume the problem is inconsistency or lack of discipline, but what's really happening is overload. They're trying to fix their finances using clarity in an environment that constantly creates noise. And over time, that mismatch becomes exhausting. You start questioning yourself in ways that feel personal. Why can't I stay consistent? Why do I keep slipping back? Why does this feel harder than it should be? But those questions assume the problem is entirely within you, and that's not accurate. The turning point is subtle, but it changes everything. Instead of asking what's wrong with you, you start asking what is making this harder than it needs to be. That shift removes a layer of pressure immediately. Because now you're not just focusing on fixing your behavior, you're paying attention to what surrounds your behavior. The constant decisions, the small triggers, the mental clutter, the quiet pressure to keep up. And once you see that clearly, you stop relying on willpower as your main strategy. You start simplifying instead. Not in an extreme way, not by cutting everything out or restricting yourself heavily, but by reducing the number of decisions you have to make every day. You make certain choices once so you don't have to keep revisiting them. You remove things that constantly demand your attention. You create small pockets of clarity in your environment. And something interesting happens when you do that. Your mind becomes quieter, your thinking becomes clearer, and better decisions start happening naturally without forcing them. You also begin to redefine what progress looks like. It's no longer about dramatic changes or sudden breakthroughs. It's about stability, being able to go through your day without constantly thinking about money, being able to spend without that immediate sense of guilt, being able to check your account and feel neutral instead of tense. That kind of progress doesn't look impressive from the outside, but it's the foundation for everything else. Without it, nothing really sticks. Another important shift is letting go of the idea that you need to fix everything at once. That pressure is one of the biggest reasons money feels overwhelming. When everything feels urgent, nothing feels manageable. So instead of trying to solve your entire financial life, you focus on making things slightly easier, a little more predictable, a little more controlled. You stop chasing perfect systems and start building something you can actually maintain. Because the truth is, money problems in 2026 feel harder not because you're failing, but because the environment around your decisions has become more complex, more distracting, and more demanding than it used to be. And once you understand that, something softens. You become more patient with yourself, less reactive, more intentional. You stop expecting instant results and start allowing progress to happen gradually. You don't need to solve everything today. You don't need to catch up overnight. You don't need to match anyone else's timeline. What you need is a system that feels calm enough to stick with, something that reduces pressure instead of adding to it. Because in the long run, financial stability isn't built through intensity. It's built through consistency in an environment that supports it. And that's something you can create. Not perfectly, not instantly, but gradually. One decision at a time, one adjustment at a time. One step that makes your life feel just a little more manageable than before. Over time, those small shifts compound, not in a dramatic way, but in a quiet, steady way that actually lasts. And eventually, without even noticing the exact moment it happened, things start to feel different. Not perfect, not effortless, but stable. And sometimes that's all you really needed in the first place.